Here's a question: when does believe all women stop applying? Answer: when the women are Jewish. When does Black Lives Matter become negotiable? Answer: when those black lives are Israeli. When does anti-racism become actual racism? Answer: when Jews are the target. Today we're talking about how progressive movements like Me Too, Black Lives Matter, and the anti-racism industry turned their core principles inside out after October 7, 2023. How they exposed that their solidarity has limits, and how those limits are drawn around one group, Jews. Shalom, I'm Igal and this is Middle East in less than 5 minutes. Me Too, believe women, except Jewish ones. Let's start with Me Too. The movement was built on one principle: believe women. When a woman says she was sexually assaulted, believe her. Don't question her. Don't demand perfect evidence. Don't side with the accused because he's powerful or famous or well-liked. Just believe her. That principle launched a revolution. Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, dozens of powerful men brought down by women's testimonies. And the movement said, this is how it should be. Women have been silenced for too long. Now we listen. Now we believe. Then came October 7th, 2023. Hamas terrorists invaded Israel. They didn't just kill. They raped, systematically, gang rapes. Women stripped naked, violated, mutilated. Some raped and then executed. Some raped and then taken hostage. Bodies desecrated. This wasn't hidden. Hamas filmed it. Survivors testified. Forensic evidence documented it. A UN report confirmed it. Sexual violence was widespread, deliberate, and brutal. So where was Me Too? Silence. Not just silence, worse than silence. Denial, justification, both sides equivocation. The response that exposed everything. Representative Pramila Jayapal, a prominent progressive Democrat, went on CNN. She was asked about the rapes. Her response? We have to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians. Balanced. About rape. Let that sink in. When Hamas systematically rapes Israeli women, the response from a progressive leader is, let's be balanced. Imagine if she said that about any other rape victims. Imagine if she said, we have to be balanced about Harvey Weinstein's accusers. What about his side? She'd be crucified, and rightfully so. But Jewish women? Balance is required. Representative Rashida Tlaib went further. She called reports of Hamas rape fake news. Just denied it, despite video evidence, despite survivor testimony, despite UN confirmation. Fake news. And the Me Too movement, the organization that built its reputation on believing women? 8 months of silence. Then a weak tweet from UN Women. No statement from Tarana Burke, the founder of Me Too. No organized response, no marches, no hashtags, no celebrity solidarity. Just silence. Meanwhile, if you accuse a Jewish man of misconduct, instant fucking response, instant solidarity, instant belief. The message is clear: believe all women unless they're Jewish. Then demand proof. Then both sides. Then maybe it's fake news. BLM, Black Lives Matter, unless they're Zionists. Now let's talk about Black Lives Matter. The movement says black lives have been devalued. Black people face systemic racism. Black suffering matters. We demand justice. Fair enough. Black lives do matter. Systemic racism is real. Police brutality is real. But apparently black lives only matter if they fit the right political narrative. October 10th, 2023, 3 days after the massacre, BLM Chicago tweets a paraglider emoji with I stand with Palestine. A paraglider. The same method Hamas used to invade Israel and massacre civilians. They're celebrating it openly. BLM Grassroots and other major chapter posts were in full solidarity with the people of Palestine and their right to resist. Resist. That's what they call it when Hamas murders 1,200 people, rapes women, and kidnaps babies. So let's apply BLM principles to black people in Israel. Do their lives matter? Ethiopian Jews, the ones BLM ignores. Israel has a significant population of Ethiopian Jews, black Jews, brought to Israel in airlifts during famines and persecution in Ethiopia. They face challenges. There's racism in Israel. Ethiopian Jews have protested police violence. They fought for equal treatment. Sound familiar? That's exactly the kind of issue BLM claims to care about. But BLM doesn't mention them, because Ethiopian Jews are Zionists. They love Israel. They serve in the IDF. They see Israel as their homeland. That makes them the wrong kind of black people. Avera Mengistu, the black hostage BLM forgot. Then there's Avera Mengistu, a black Israeli, mentally ill, wandered into Gaza in 2014. Hamas kidnapped him. He has been held hostage for over a decade. A black man held captive by a terrorist organization for 10 years. Where's BLM? Where are the protests? Where is the solidarity? Nowhere, because Avera is Israeli. That disqualifies him. And he's held by Hamas, and criticizing Hamas might upset the Palestine is the ultimate victim narrative. So Black Lives Matter unless you are a black Zionist. Then you don't exist. The Oppressor-oppressed script. Here's why this happens. BLM operates on a rigid oppressor-oppressed framework. In that framework, Israel is the oppressor, white, Western, colonial, and powerful. Palestinians are the oppressed, brown, third world, victims, powerless. Never mind that half of Israelis are Mizrahi Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. Never mind that Israel is a multiracial democracy with black, Arab, and Druze citizens. Never mind that Hamas is a theocratic terror organization that executes dissenters and uses children as human shield. None of that matters. The script is set. Israel is Goliath. Palestinians are David. And if you are on Goliath's side, even if you are black, you don't count. This isn't about black lives. It's about ideology. It's about siding with anyone who opposes the West, even if that someone is a jihadist terrorist group. Anti-racism. Now with extra racism against Jews. Now let's talk about the anti-racism industry. Ibrahim X. Kendi, Robin DiAngelo, the whole DEI complex. Their framework? Any disparity is evidence of racism. If one group does better than another, it's because of systemic oppression. The solution? Discrimination in the opposite direction to create equity. Jews pose a problem to this framework. Jews have been historically oppressed. Pogroms, inquisitions, the Holocaust, expelled from dozens of countries. But Jews are also successful, disproportionately represented in medicine, law, academia, and business. So which are they, oppressed or oppressor? In the anti-racism framework, success equals oppression. If you are doing well, you must be benefiting from an unjust system. You're not a victim, you are a perpetrator. So Jews get labeled privileged, white adjacent, overrepresented, oppressors. Never mind that Jews are 2% of the US population but face the majority of religious hate crimes. Never mind the synagogue shootings. Never mind the rising antisemitism on campuses. Jews are successful, so they are enemy. Post-October 7th, when the masks came off. After October 7th, antisemitism exploded. In the UK, anti-Semitic incidents spiked 147% in the months following the attack. Synagogues vandalized, Jews assaulted, chants of Gaza Jews at protests. In the US, Jewish students harassed on campuses, told to go back to Europe, called Zionist pigs, physically blocked from parts of campus. Where is the anti-racism industry? Where is Ibrahim X. Kendi? Where is the DI apparatus that claim to fight hate? Silent. Or worse, complicit, because in their framework, criticizing Islamists is Islamophobia, a hate crime, but chanting from the river to the sea or globalize the intifada? Oh, that's free speech, that's resistance. The Islamophobia shield. Here's the trick. The term Islamophobia has been weaponized to shut down any criticism of Islamic ideology. Point out that Hamas is a terrorist organization, Islamophobia. Question why Western progressives defend regimes that execute gays and oppress women, Islamophobia. Note that most global terrorism is committed by Islamist groups, Islamophobia. The anti-racism framework amplifies this, because Muslims are classified as oppressed. Any criticism of them, even of radical Islamists, is treated as punching down, a bigotry. Meanwhile, Jews are classified as privileged, so any hatred directed at them is either ignored or justified. Zionists aren't a protected class. This is about Israel, not Jews. Anti-Zionism isn't antisemitism. It's critical race theory flipped. Jews become the new whites. Islamists become untouchable. The playbook in action. Let's see how this works in practice. A Jewish student wears a Star of David necklace, gets harassed, told to take it off because it's triggering. An imam preaches that Jews are descendants of apes and pigs, actual Quranic language used by radicals. No consequences, that's his religious belief. A pro-Israel speaker is invited to campus. Protests, disruptions, demand to cancel. A Hamas supporter speaks on campus, celebrated, defended as a free speech. Jewish-owned businesses targeted for boycott. It's about Zionism, not Jews. Muslim-owned businesses targeted? Islamophobia, hate crime. The double standard isn't subtle, it's blatant. And the anti-racism industry not only allows it, they enable it. What October 7th exposed. October 7th was a clarifying moment. It exposed who actually believes in their stated principles and who's just using those principles as weapons. Me Too doesn't believe all women. They believe women who fit their political narrative. BLM doesn't believe Black Lives Matter. They believe Black Lives Matter when those lives support the anti-Western ideology. The anti-racism industry doesn't fight all racism. They fight racism when it's politically convenient. And they ignore, excuse, or participate in racism when the target is Jews. These movements got hijacked. Maybe they were always this way. Maybe the principles were never universal. Maybe it was always about power, not justice. But October 7th made it undeniable. The hypocrisy in numbers. Let's be specific. 1,200 Israelis murdered on October 7th. Women raped, babies killed, families burned alive. Response from Me Too? Silence for 8 months. Response from BLM? Celebration, resistance. Response from anti-racism activism? Let's talk about root causes. Compare that to George Floyd murdered by police. Immediate global response, protests in every major city. Corporations pledging billions. Statues torn down. Police departments defunded. One black man's death, horrific and unjust, sparked a global movement. 1,200 Jewish deaths, including women, children, elderly, raped and burned alive. And the response is, let's be balanced. The disparity tells you everything. Jews, the exception to every rule. Here's the pattern. Believe all women except Jewish women. Black Lives Matter except Black Zionists. Fight racism except antisemitism. Oppose colonialism except when Jews are indigenous. Defend human rights except when Hamas violates them. Protect minorities except when Jews are a minority being attacked. Jews as the exception to every progressive principle. Always. Why this matters beyond Jews? If you're not Jewish, you might think this doesn't affect me. Wrong. When movements abandon universal principles for political convenience, everyone loses. If Me Too only believes women when it's politically useful, the movement is dead. Women who don't fit the narrative won't be believed. If BLM only cares about black lives when they fit an ideological script, the movement is a lie. Black people who don't conform will be abandoned. If anti-racism becomes a tool to excuse some racism while amplifying others, it's not anti-racism, it's just tribalism with a new label. These movements claimed moral authority by appealing to universal values, justice, equality, human dignity. But they've proven those values aren't universal. They are conditional. They apply to some people and not others. That's not progress. That's the opposite of progress. What needs to happen? Progressives need to wake up. Your movement got hijacked. Me Too got hijacked by people who care more about Palestine than about rape victims. BLM got hijacked by Marxist activists who care more about opposing the West than about black lives. Anti-racism got hijacked by ideologues who redefined racism to excuse hatred of Jews. If you actually believe in the principles these movements claim to represent, you need to demand better. Demand that Me Too believe all women, including Jewish women. Demand that BLM care about all black lives, including black Israelis. Demand that anti-racism fight all racism, including anti-Semitism. Or admit that these movements were never about universal values. They were always about power, always about sides, always selective. October 7th, 2023 exposed something ugly. It exposed that believe women has limits. It exposed that Black Lives Matter has conditions. It exposed that anti-racism can coexist with the oldest hatred in history. And it exposed that for many progressives, Jews are the exception. The one group that doesn't get solidarity. The one group that doesn't deserve protection. The one group whose suffering gets minimized, denied, or justified. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. And everyone who stays silent in making that choice too. Which betrayal hits you hardest? Let me know. Rate the podcast. Share this, because this conversation is long overdue. I'm Igal, and this was Middle East in less than 5 minutes. Until next time, Shalom.